Welcome back to Learning Inkscape, and this time I'm going to show you how to create a Sunburst chart. I'm not going to go over all the details, I'm just going to show you the process, otherwise it would be an hour-long video with lots of repetitive tasks. So let me just go over the basic functions. So at first, let us create circles, and I'll control when I drag that. And you can give it whatever color you wish. Let us start here, and then I press Ctrl D, and I hold Ctrl and Shift while I resize that to have smaller circles in the center of it. So these are the basic elements, and it makes sense to start with the outer one. So don't start with the small ones, start with the big ones, otherwise you're going to have problems later on with the hierarchy up here, and you'll have to do a lot of clicking. So start with the outer one, it makes more sense. We need to have the snapping enabled, snap to paths. And these two icons for the rotation center and the center of objects. Use the Bezier tool, hold Ctrl, and you can go from the center to the path, create a horizontal line, then use the nodes tool, hold Ctrl when you drag that to the left, and you've got a horizontal line perfectly in the center. Make sure it's selected, and we're going to use at first the tiled clones menu. It might be a little bit intimidating, but we'll just go to rotation. And then we'll set the rows and columns. So if you want to have 24, you'll just have to divide 360 degrees by 24, which in this case is 15. So set row and column like this, and then apply it. And if you had 12, it's easy divided in that, so it's just 30 degrees. So by clicking on Create, you will apply this function to the line. Let me show this again for 24, which I've set as 15. Just create. And now you've created all of these segments. So the next question is, how can we give that different colors? So if I just use the fill, you can see it's applied to the entire circle, but I want to have it applied to only these cells. And the way to do it is select it all, then hold Shift and click on the circle so that you only have the lines selected. Then you press Ctrl D to copy it, and you press stroke to path on the path. Then go to path and combine them, hold Shift and click on the circle, and then use division. And this is how you can cut that out. And now you can use this fill simply, so the basic color swatch is down here, to give these segments different colors. If you want to create text, just use the type tool. You can rotate it with a double click on it, and use the cursor tool and resize it with a single click. And you can use the basic color swatches here as well, for example, to give it a black or a white color. For the starting position, you want to rotate it slightly. So click on it again, use the rotation function. If you want to copy that, just go to Object, use the Transform menu, that's the easiest way to do it. And we know that we need 15 degrees, because we've used that prior to create these cells. So just press Ctrl D for the text, and then apply the rotation. If you want to adjust it, just press T for the type tool, change the text to something else, and you may have to resize it depending on the size of the text in your cells. After you finish the outer circle, just select the next, put it on top, and you can use this hierarchy function. And as I've said, this way it saves you a lot of clicks. Otherwise you would have to use the hierarchy a little bit more. So go from outside to the inside. But the process is now the same. So create a line first with the Bezier tool and the nodes tool. Hold Control when you drag these and draw these. You can also use the rotate function to transform it instead of the tile clones function. So the smaller the circles get, the less information there should be in your Sunburst chart. So it makes sense to just use the transform menu for these smaller circles. And reposition it. Just hold Control and use the cursor tool. So don't use the nodes tool here. It's easier to do it like this. Just press Ctrl D to copy it, rotate it to the position where it has to be, and then use the cursor tool while holding Control and reposition it. Select it all, but deselect the circle, so shift click on it, and object, fill in stroke, and change the width of the stroke style to have all of these lines given the same stroke width. And then you can add the text. In this case, once again, use Ctrl D to copy it, rotated it, resized it, and when you resize it, hold Control. So once you've got that done, you want to shift click on the lines, path, stroke to path, then combine it, then press Ctrl D, select it again, shift click on the circle so that it's also selected, and then go to path and division, and once again we can recolor these segments now, so these cells. When you've got this circle finished, just group it, so select it all, Ctrl G, group the other one as well, select them both, and then use Object, Align and Distribute, and put it to the center. In some cases, a stroke is used on top of these smaller circles, but you have to ungroup it first and only select the circle elements, otherwise you're going to add a stroke to the lines and the text as well. So I'll press Shift Ctrl G to ungroup and then hold Shift and select only the circle elements, and I add the stroke while holding Shift and clicking on the basic color swatches. In some Sunburst charts you'll have different sizes for your cells, and you can simply resize them with the cursor tool. Just hold Control when you do, and that way they stay in position, and this is how you can achieve that effect. And this is basically everything you need to know to create these Sunburst charts. As I've said, if I go through a complete example, it would take at least an hour, and it would only be these basic principles that I've just shown you. But you can find a lot online. I'm going to link to a site where you can find something, and you may want to recreate that for practice purposes. And this is how you can create these Sunburst charts in Inkscape. I hope this video was helpful, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.